And we are live for another Friday night chat. Zed, Brad.
Yep, good evening. Or
Good
good
evening.
morning.
Good morning to you. And what time is it, Zed?
3:30 a.m.
Oh my gosh, dude. What are you doing up? That is like, that you're not supposed to be up at that time, man.
It's because I worked in the City of London for so many years where I was at my desk at 6:30, left at 3:30 in the afternoon. I just got used to waking up at 4 o'clock. So an extra half an hour for this is a breeze.
All right.
Nice. And there's Barb. We'll wait till she gets her settings right, because some reason everybody has problems with Zoom, but
I just use it on mobile.
yeah.
It doesn't seem to remember my settings. That's the only problem. So I've got it working now. I'll join next week and I'll have to reset them again.
There we go.
Hi, Barbara.
Hello, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
I feel like I came in the middle of something, or nobody started yet.
No, we didn't really start into anything
Oh,
yet.
okay.
I was searching for something and I was not paying attention. So.
Oh, okay.
And I still can't find what I was looking for. Darn it.
It's always that way. And then later you'll find it with no problem.
Well, here, I'll start this out with some highlighting news from Destination Linux there. That AIM is shutting down.
Wow.
I read that the other day.
Can you believe that? I didn't even know it was still around.
I know. I didn't know.
I didn't either.
It's a blast from the past.
Is that AOL Instant Messenger?
Yes, that's what that
Yeah.
is.
All right.
You see, is that back on dial-up?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure
Yeah.
I remember that from my modem days, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that's why I said it's 2017, and they're going to, well, it's going to shut down December 15th. So, too bad on you. Hey, Joe.
Hi, how are you?
What's going on, man?
Not much. Finally got in here at the start of the show for a change, huh?
Yeah. And the sound settings are working, right?
Everything seems to be working good. Yeah, on this end. How's it sound on your end?
That sounds good to me.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
So,
What
hang
were
on
you
a
going to
minute.
say, Zed?
I was going to say, December the 15th. Where do they get these random dates from?
What day is that? Is that like a certain day?
Of December.
It's a Friday.
It's a Friday.
So maybe
It's
it's
halfway through the
because...
month.
Or maybe it's because that's before the Christmas shutdown or something.
I have no idea, man. December 15th is the day they're going to shut it down. And so you better, like, switch off of AOL Instant Messenger.
Make sure
Before
all your
then.
contacts are copied across.
Yes. Yeah. Totally.
Does anybody really use that anymore? I mean, really?
About 10 years ago.
I hope not, Joe.
Yeah. That's the case. It reminds me of Tim Allen in Home Improvement. Remember when he was taking the stick and typing the message in on the rock? Hi, Grog. That's about what it reminds you of. 'Cause I remember those days. I remember how expensive it was, too.
Yeah, because they charge you by the minute.
Yeah. it was
Connect
crazy.
time.
Yeah, those were the bad old days. And we sometimes sit here with our 80/20 fiber lines going, oh my God, why is this so slow?
We do,
Yeah,
too,
no
man. I
kidding.
do it all the time.
And it's like, hang on a minute. It used to take a week to download one MP3.
Yes.
So just stop, chill, remember if you're old enough, and then continue moaning.
Wise words. Wise words. But, you know, there was, to be fair, everything was smaller back then, too. Like, pictures were smaller, MP3s were like, everything was smaller at the time. Because, I mean, geez, you didn't have no drive space either.
Yep, and web
Yeah.
spaces were just text.
Yeah. So, it didn't, like, yes, it was completely slow and way slower than what we have now, but it didn't have to pull all of this data that it pulls in now.
My
Okay,
first
I remember
56 megabyte hard drive.
But see, I remember on dial-up, whenever you get like a heavy website and you hit the wrong link, it was like, oh no, and I got to hit the back arrow and it's got to reload everything, and it was a mess.
Could you imagine if you had to pay the prices you paid then now for what you're putting on in time here on the air? We could put a big dent in the deficit if we did that.
Well, everybody's got their stories of what they started out with computer-wise. So.
Yeah. Well, talk about smaller, even the monitors. I mean, if you had a 15-inch monitor, you thought you were, in your glory.
Yep.
And that was a CRT monitor.
Yeah, and it took up half the desk.
Well, I still have a 17-inch CRT monitor in the basement. Thing weighs 80 pounds.
Yeah.
Although they are pretty good for gaming still.
VGA. On your DOS box?
I'm just saying.
Hey, that was a heck of a show, that interview you guys did this week.
With Michael?
Yeah, that was awesome.
That guy, man, he knows so much stuff. Like, you didn't even crack half of what we could have gotten into with him. And half of what we were talking about was making my mind explode while we were talking about it. It's like, holy mackerel.
Right.
I mean, he was getting into some deep stuff, but
yeah,
it was a good interview.
It was really, really good.
But I was actually pretty happy or surprised a little bit of his take on gaming and gaming on Linux. Yeah. And because usually, and including myself, everybody is really, really optimistic on gaming on Linux and how it's going to take off at some point. But man, like, he was like right out, probably not.
Yeah, and maybe I'm just the perpetual optimist here or whatever, but I'd like to think the opposite. I mean, when you look at where things have gone from where they used to be, that's what I'm hoping the trend keeps going, because I know he was saying he didn't think that Linux would ever, unless I misinterpreted, but that it would ever really get where it needs to be, and I don't know that Linux would ever take over Windows. I don't know that anybody ever, at this point, I wouldn't say that. But when you look at the market gain already of what it's done, just for the operating systems alone, like I said, I just would rather remain optimistic and hopeful. But then you hear, the side of where, it's not going to happen. Well, how many times we heard PCs are going to go away? And
right.
PCs are what create all this stuff. So I don't know. Yeah, time's going to tell, but he was a wealth of knowledge. He really was. It was just amazing.
Well, that's why I said it was actually nice to hear, because I think he was talking from experience.
Yeah.
Experience from working with developers and gaming companies, and it's like you see that every day. So he more or less has like the inside scoop. And he's been doing it for so long, so he sees the trends. He sees how quickly it's moving, where it's gone. So, like I said, it was good to see that.
And I think that's what's worrisome, to think that if because he does have a little bit more of an inside track, maybe he is more correct than we'd all like to believe. I don't know, but it just all depends. I don't know.
Well, I always have the. I'm with you, Joe. I always have that eternal hope that it's gonna get better. But who knows? We'll see. You just gotta let it play out.
You know what? I guess I was listening to something today. It was basically an inspirational short minute that this girl put out about the message is the same. Instead of worrying about what you don't have, let's be grateful for what you do have. And when you think about where we're at already from where we were 10 years ago, if it never got any better from here, we're still leaps and bounds better from where we were.
What do you think, you said about Windows isn't going anywhere. As software gets pushed more and more to the web, like I work at a John Deere dealership, and they're trying to push every application to the web.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's going to go cloud-based. There's no doubt about that, because that's what everything's doing. And to sit there and say that, there was a side to me that you could have your own argument with yourself to some extent, and thinking that Windows doesn't really care about the operating system side because they're making all kinds of money on everything else. Well, the only reason that, the data and whatever else they're getting, the apps, but their access to get that information is through their operating system. So, and now I understand there's supposed to be a price hike on their pro versions too coming up. So for PC, creators, builders. So I don't know, but I do think that I could see everything going subscription based and cloud based, but in the somewhat near future.
Am I on?
You are.
All right, good deal. To install Zoom. I haven't done Zoom in this computer before, apparently. So.
Nice.
You were just on 10 minutes ago.
What's that?
I was just watching you 10 minutes ago.
Oh, yeah, cool. Yeah, I was trying to wrap up by 10:30. I remember you guys were starting here at 10:30, so I wanted to wrap up by then. So I have a little bit of editing to do. But everything's talking about the cloud and things. Everything's going to the cloud, and that actually concerns me because, on top of there's just all this data out there in this nebulous cloud. The other problem is, what happens when the internet goes down? What happens when, and what happens when they just decide to close your account because they want to,
or they want to close down, period.
Yeah. And so I don't do anything on cloud for that very reason. I don't want anything on cloud.
You're not alone. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just mentioning before you came on that I work for a John Deere dealership, and they're pushing everything to the cloud. They want you to have your POS and everything on the cloud. And it's like you said, the internet goes down. I can't even sell stuff.
Well,
like that's
actually,
wrong.
Yeah. I mean, actually, there's that exact scenario actually happened in Nevada this summer when every bit of the hospital network was cloud-based and the internet went down. There was only one line in Nevada. And that line went down. It was cut or something. And hospitals could not function because everything was cloud-based. People know how much medication to give people. That's crazy.
Well, everything in that case with medication and data and all the records are all supposed to be using the same file structure and so on, so that all the different hospitals and doctors' offices can talk to each other.
Yeah, the intranet. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that when that crypto locker was released, that affected quite a few hospitals where it got pretty scary. And you would think that they would have an independent, like you said, independent intranet that didn't rely on it. It's one thing to file share amongst each other if you're in a different location, and if the cloud or the internet goes down, you're still able to function within the facility. But
that had nothing to do with the internet. That was someone screwing up, and then the rest of the network spreading the virus.
No, but my point was that's when when they were trying to blame. Of course, everything that happened on any computer was always because of that when it came out. That's what I'm saying. It was around that time when all of a sudden they were blaming them for that. But the point is even if you didn't have your intranet working to where you could access a remote facility, across town, which that's still internet based. You still should have your.
Well, the reason why it was
running.
Problem was because they're ridiculous, and their IT didn't update their machines for years, and they were still using XP in most cases.
Yeah,
nothing to do with the internet, and nothing to do with the cloud. It was just horrible IT and horrible management of funds to make sure the security was up because they didn't do anything. As soon as you have like an internet that has no security between the two different points, and every node can be infected by the other nodes, that's what's screwed up. And it also wasn't even an attack towards them. It was pretty much accidental. It was just
welcome to the NHS.
Yeah, they attacked one thing, and then it just started becoming another. It just avalanche.
Just cascaded.
This huge attack that they didn't even mean to do. And in fact, when they realized who they attacked, they turned it off. They couldn't stop it once it already happened, but they turned it off.
Exactly the same thing happened in the NHS when they got recently hit with malware or something or ransomware. And it's because 50%, if not more, of the network was still on XP.
Yep.
It's 2017. It's shocking.
And that's still a problem. How many places do you go and you go into a store or whatever and they're still using XP?
That's actually Microsoft's fault because until 2021, it's still covered enterprise support.
I mean, I'm not saying that the place that I work at, may just have upgraded from XP like last year. I mean, I'm not saying that, but it might have happened that way.
Well, there's a handful of computers at the medical facilities over here that still use them. And the reason I know is because every time I sit in front of the computer, if I'm there for an appointment or whatever, I'm always looking to see what operating system is on.
I do that.
Yeah.
How sad are we?
Right. That is true, though.
And we become so judgmental about it.
Wait.
We're going to the doctors to find out how sick we are or not. And you're studying the monitor to see what OS is.
That's a weird way to pronounce awesome.
Must be my British accent, sorry.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I've even said something when I've seen that they're running XP. I'm like, you're still using that? And they kind of look at me like, huh?
Yeah, they shrug.
Yeah, they have no idea.
I've had companies tell me that they had a risk assessment that they did themselves and decided that it wasn't a big enough risk to change. And these are like, in multiple cases, there was law firms that said this to me, and hospital companies, or at least companies that were directed to hospitals, like HIPAA compliance companies. Mm-hmm. And they would say, these like, we did an assessment. We're not a big target. And like, do you know what data you have? You're automatically a target. Like, that's idiotic. But also,
they have
by the way,
no idea. Not bad. They have no idea.
Yeah, they don't.
No, they're totally clueless.
They have an IT person who did the assessment, house IT, and they don't really know what they're doing. It's someone who knows enough to pretend to everybody else that they are geniuses, and they don't. And the other people are just completely oblivious, so they don't know how to tell a difference. But this other person just pretends. Mm-hmm. I had one conversation with him, like, yeah, you're a pretender.
And he probably got a 10K bonus.
Oh, yeah, he gets the bonus for it.
Yeah. Sorry, Brad.
I mean, that's the thing, though. See, like, I'm a power user. I'm not IT. I have a degree in accounting. So, like, everyone thinks it's amazing because they don't know anything. But it amazes me how much poor professional IT is out there. Mm-hmm. Like, we had a citrus farm, and our IT provider saying, well, it's John Deere's information saying, no, it's your network, and it's like, I had to fix it. And it's like, it just blows my mind.
Well, here's the process of most IT departments. Receive a ticket. Can we throw it back and ignore it? Yes? Okay, do so.
Yep.
If not, does it come back? All right, throw it away again.
Mm-hmm.
And does it come back again? All right, maybe find someone who can answer the question.
Well, the problem...
Tier 3 before they care.
Yeah. The thing that I found when I was teaching high school students at a residential treatment center, and their IT guy was some guy who was like retired from IBM, and because he worked at IBM, they figured, oh, he knew computers. I used to run circles around him all the time. And it was like so much fun because I had done that stuff for 23 years before I went into teaching. And it was like he would say, and I'd say, this is what's wrong. No, it's not. How do you know? Yeah, John, I think I know more than you do. And I would say that to him after a while.
Well, I'm still baffled how many times people I'm a computer power user, but I'm a web developer. I'm not necessarily an IT guy. And how many times I'll have clients like, I need help getting this email. It's like, okay, you're talking about servers, email, Outlook. I don't know. I'm a web developer. Just because I know how to run computers pretty well does not mean I can do everything on a computer.
Well, my favorite is I did work like IT for a little bit, and it's like anything that plugs in. I had a teacher one time ask me to fix her VCR. She's like, "Oh, you're here to work on my computer. Can you look at my VCR?" It's like,
yeah, it's blinking 12. I can't fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
obviously they don't have kids at home.
The school administrator on his flip phone somehow flipped the screen upside down and was like, "Hey, you're IT, fix this."
Oh, that's how it is. Yeah.
Internet search, though, we can probably solve it faster than most people because of the internet.
You're correct. You're correct. Google it.
Michael, do you remember?
I want guys making hundreds an hour Googling stuff. So
I was watching. I want to say I think it was done on Jupiter Broadcasting's site. Noah Chalaya had done an interview type thing of his dad, who's a cardiac surgeon or whatever he is, and he was talking, and I can't remember if it was CentOS or which one it was on, but they had created a platform in Linux to do the record keeping, and his father said that it actually worked so much better than what they were using because it was a real-time record. I'm sitting there with a client, and I could sit there and put the records in. I didn't have to go back and dictate afterwards and all this other. But he said, well, the thing that was keeping him from using it within his own office was the six-figure, the steep six-figure number to certify it in order to be able to have it recognized and used. And he said it's a much better system than anything he's ever used. I can't remember all the facts because it's been some months since I saw that. I didn't know if you remembered seeing anything like that he had done for that show.
It's a project made by completely different people. They just use it, and they wanted to publicize it because how good it is. It's called OpenERM. It is a relationship management tool for patients and really anything that you can use it for more than just patient stuff. But it's focused heavily on on medical patients and stuff like that. And its purpose is to remove the fee that most of these projects cost like $20,000 a month to use them.
Right.
And this one is basically, it's free, but they were trying to get like funding to certify, and you have to pay every year certification. And the certification is just basically, hey, we make this, we secure it, believe us. But you have to pay to get them to believe you.
But I thought, was that built, am I wrong, or wasn't that built on, it was built on a Linux platform, right? Is that what it was?
It's a web hosted system. So like it's made for Linux, but not in the sense of like a Linux desktop user. It's made for a server user. Like that's why when people say the cloud's terrible, I was like, I use the cloud all the time. And most of the time people go, well, aren't you afraid they're gonna lose your security and attack your privacy and stuff? No, I'm the cloud. It's my server. Like the cloud doesn't mean someone else's server. It means a removed device, a device that's removed from you physically. So I have control over the server, and it's locked down to all my stuff, and only I have access to use it.
Are you talking like DigitalOcean type thing?
DigitalOcean can be that, OVH, anything, really. Just as long as you have access to a server to put the files on it yourself, and you can encrypt them, and you can lock down the access to it. And the only way they would be able to get to access to it is if they broke into it or broke it themselves. And they really wouldn't be able to get access because if you encrypt your data on there, it doesn't really matter. So like OpenERM is just a lamp stack thing. So you can put that on any server you want. And the same thing with like, web hosted RSS readers and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, even the NAS drive that I have in my house, just an open media vault, because I can access it, outside the office via VPN. It's, technically it's a cloud, but it's a way better cloud than using someone else's, Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on what you feel. I mean, it really depends on where you want to store your data. Are you and what you're comfortable with, whether it's DigitalOcean or whether it's a NAS or whatever it may be.
Yeah, and actually though, a lot of what I'm doing right now with digital minimalizing my life, it's caused me to ask myself those questions, because what type of data do I really need on my NAS? Because like I'm going through tax records, there's no reason for me to put my tax records on that, I am just as happy having those on a thumb drive as a backup and on a hard drive, thumb drive backup. But any file that I would possibly need to access from anywhere, that's the only thing that goes on there. So it caused me to think about what I want, where, and how,
And storage has become so cheap now that very few people go through that exercise.
Yeah.
They just go, oh, I'll bung it on the cloud. I'll bung it on the cloud. I'll put it on my 3 terabyte USB drive. Oh, and then I better get another one just to back up that one, just in case, sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I just priced some out just looking on today. It was like 2 terabytes now. It costs $40.
Yeah, storage is definitely cheap now. And, if you think about what most people are backing up, unless you have, like I've got businesses or whatever, unless you've got accounting or sensitive information like that, most people, it's more just personal, sentimental photographs, things like that, maybe if they're in school, they've got papers they want to keep for a while, whatever. But it's really not the most critical thing in the world. It's just when you start getting into the sensitive information, that's where you should be more careful, I guess.
I'm trying to think of where my other hard drive's at. I usually have a hard drive sitting right here. I don't know where it is.
Well, there you go. See, that's where cloud would help because you lost your hard drive.
Yeah, you can organize it. Like, here's one right here. There's one right here.
Yeah, well, it's probably. I mean, it might be. I might have actually moved it into my other save. That's where it's probably at.
So my point was just like have the cloud is not bad. The cloud that you don't know who's controlling it, what's on it, that's bad. Like Dropbox, avoided like the plague.
Right.
I think I've just got a few photographs on there that I wanted to share with friends because it seemed to be an easy way to do it rather than emailing them.
Yeah, I tell my clients, anybody sending me stuff on Dropbox, you gotta have a public available link because I'm not having an account over there.
Yeah, the only thing I use Dropbox for is if I got photos on my phone and I want to get them into my computer, I sync them up there, take the photos off, and delete what's on there. I know once it's there, it leaves a footprint, but it's usually just for transferring photos. That's all I use it for. I don't put any sensitive information up there.
I mean, there's other ways to transfer photos, like even email is easy to transfer photos. You don't like it's not unless you're trying to have public display of photos. I think email is better.
Well, what do you guys prefer in cloud storage? Like you have places like Spider Oak who will back up your files, but you also have places like pCloud that will back up your data, but you don't actually have it on your computer, where it's basically a link that you get. Like pCloud will actually put a folder in your file manager, and you'll be able to view the files that are on the server. But if you want to use them, you'll have to basically download them.
Well, Spider Oak's encrypted, right? It's supposed to be stored encrypted.
Spider Oak is, yeah. But those files are on your computer versus something like pCloud where they're not taking up any space on your computer, but you have access to them.
Well, that's an interesting approach, but that means all your files are there, and you're kind of at their whim. So I would rather have a copy on their server if I was doing something like that. Spider Echo is way expensive. Like if it wasn't so expensive, it'd be a good option, but it's so expensive.
So what do you guys think of Mega Cloud? The New Zealand-based organisation who give away 50 gig free.
I would not trust Mega at all.
For what reason?
Have you not heard of whokim.com is?
Yeah.
The only reason that I would not trust them is because, well, number one is you have no idea if they're going to be around. You know what I mean? Like they might get shut down tomorrow. You know, like they have in the past.
Literally his last company.
Yeah, literally. Hey, Josh, what's going on, man?
Hey, man, what's up? Happening?
Hi, Josh.
Good to have you on, brother.
Is that English Bob?
No, it's Zebedee. Yeah, we just sound the same.
Wait, Zeb, do I notice that you have a peppermint sweatshirt on?
I have a peppermint top on, yeah.
Where did you get that? I didn't even know they...
Yeah, from the Peppermint website. They do tops like this. They do T-shirts and they do sweatshirts. Not sweatshirts, but hoodies.
Well, nice. You're going to have to put a link in the chat. That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, I can do, because I've also got a Destination Linux one coming.
Yeah.
I've ordered the hoodie. To see, let's see what that looks like.
I'm going to play Louis Rossman and just kind of leave a picture of my chair for a few minutes. I'll be back in a few.
Okay. Is the kitty going to come in?
Kitty cat.
Put him up on the chair.
There we go.
Better be careful with keys he punches. He'll expose your data.
Anyway, who was going to say somebody else was going to say something about that cloud stuff? I interrupted somebody.
I was just going to say that Mega is. I wouldn't trust Mega. I mean, maybe sending files that you don't care about to people, or like a lot of people, or something like a group. Like you had an event, you want to send a group access to a file. Maybe that might be worth it. I wouldn't trust them to like save my stuff because his track record of not doing stupid stuff is not very good. So I would not trust him at all. But
totally agree.
Yeah, but there's a lot of like roll your own syncing solutions, like Syncani, SyncThing.
SyncThing I was looking at actually.
Yeah, I use SyncThing, but it depends on like what kind of the way you want to do it. SyncThing's not that good for outside of local net, but it works fine. It's just kind of like excessively complicated to do that kind of thing, to get outside of your local, because you have to change configurations and stuff. But there are other ones that are really nice, like Syncani's pretty good.
Ooh, that's a shot across the bow there. At you.
Right,
Michael. At you in chat.
Wow.
That was a shot.
Wow. So, ridiculous question. Obviously.
Yeah.
When are you going to do a Plasma Look Like Unity video? Sometime next year? No. 2024? Thank you. Actually, I have more plans for that. So, like, I haven't done it because I'm doing something better than just a video. But you'll see. Sometime.
Digital
eventually.
OS?
No, definitely not. I don't have the patience for that. I have a ton of patience, but not that.
Not for that, yeah. So, Big Daddy, did you hear the new word that was coined? I've never seen it written down anywhere before.
What word?
You can actually suffer from hepatitis.
Yeah, somebody put that up there.
I totally got that. I totally have that.
It's a contagious. Yeah, it's a contagious malady that spreads between Linux users, causing them to continually hop from one distro to another in search of operating system perfection, or purely for geek gratification.
Where did you find this?
Symptoms of that? Because I might have it.
And it says, "Dude, you have a serious case of hepatitis."
It's awesome. I love it.
That's excellent.
I know you got that, Josh.
Oh, listen, you have no idea. My wife is all the time asking me, Josh, why are you switching again? Can't you just find something that you love? I'm like, no, honey, they're all good.
Yep.
They're all good.
They all have different things about them that are good. You just got to find the one that that has the least amount of cons and the best things that you like.
Hannah Montana Linux.
There you go.
I was waiting.
I don't know.
HML.
What's better, Hannah Montana or Justin Bieber Linux? Which one's
Hannah
better?
Montana for
Oh
sure.
my god, I take Hannah Montana.
Okay.
It's got a lot more pop to it.
I would take.
Well, I don't know. I
over Bieber any day.
oh yeah. Okay. All right, well, I
Most
like
people
too
miss that.
much pink, but
Rebecca
Most
Black
people
West is
miss
the
that,
best one,
Michael.
man.
That was bad. Most people miss that comment.
What did we miss? I didn't miss. What did I miss?
He
Or
says
do we
it's
not
got a
wanna
lot
go
more
there?
Pop to it.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And everybody just carried on talking, and I thought he did it. He sneaked one in, and we all missed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all right. There's
I have at least
We'll just try to keep it show friendly. That's all.
So-
Family friendly. Excuse me.
that is
I was
pop
I was
music.
watching a video today about a guy that did his Toys R Us video. It's the Company Man site, and he did a Toys R Us video, and he used Comic Sans in the in the video slides because there's a kids talking about a kids toy company, and he said he got so much hate comment about using Comic Sans. So let's think about doing a Linux distro based entirely in Comic Sans. What do you think?
It'd be rough.
There might be something like that. With the amount of Linux distros there are, it might actually exist. Who knows?
I
But
pulled
if it
one on
doesn't,
Ryan.
It definitely needs to.
Let's see what we can find.
I pulled one on Ryan today in the Destination Linux episode for Monday. You'll have to wait to hear it, but I pulled one on him too.
Nice.
Good. We'll keep an eye out for that.
So, Michael, does that mean the next time you mention Hannah Montana, it's going to have an underscore in between?
And an exclamation.
Yeah, that too.
Rocco, have you messed with the new backslash? The beta?
I have not. No.
I know you're a KDE guy.
Yeah. Well, I love KDE. Me and Michael just had this conversation last night. I think it was till like 4 a.m, something like that. It was ridiculous.
I have a better time zone, but yeah.
Yeah, and we were talking about KDE, and I love KDE. I always have and always
And that's
will.
where the conversation ended, right there.
No, that's not.
We started
Unfortunately,
the conversation at 3:59.
Unfortunately, that's not where the conversation ended. I love KDE, but it just drives me insane sometimes. And right now I'm running GNOME, dude, and it works pretty darn good for me.
What distro?
With extensions. With extensions, I mean. So I'll have to clarify that because Michael will correct me if I don't.
I thought about it.
I'm running Manjaro GNOME right now.
Manjaro's pretty nice. I've always had good luck with Manjaro. I've never had a problem with it. It's probably the only distro that I've ever used that I've not really had screen tearing right out of the box without having to do much customizations. It just seemed to work.
Well, I have not had that experience in the past with Manjaro. A lot of times I'll have issues with it, but this time has run perfect, and I got no complaints whatsoever. So.
Awesome. I think I tried to download it last week, but they were having some issues with their SourceForge servers.
Yeah.
So get it.
No, but it's been running good. What do you mean, David? What do you mean? What did I say that was wrong?
So what about the news of, I think it's is it guy's name Jody James and OS Revenge?
Yeah, what about
Revenge OS? He's retiring through health reasons. He's giving it up.
Really?
Yep.
I did not see that. Oh my god.
There was a Google Plus, and he's hoping that someone will jump. He did name someone who's taking it over to try and keep it going, but he did say that a programmer was going to be needed to help him, this other guy, maintain the OS.
Well, that's unfortunate news. So best of luck to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy mackerel.
Distro anyway.
I've never tried it because the name of it was silly, and I never thought about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, not quite sure why it was ever called Revenge OS, but
yeah, every time I saw it, it was like, I don't get it.
I don't know if we asked him that on, like, he was on Destination Linux. We interviewed him. I don't know if I asked him where the name came from or not. It escapes me. If I did.
I don't know if it was yours or another show, but I do remember seeing something on it quite some time ago, and there was an explanation on where it came from. It leads to what the name itself says, revenge. It wasn't revenge in the sense of something harsh. It was kind of like what, I guess the only comparison I could make is people wanting to get revenge on Microsoft, they're going to move to Linux. Is that true? I don't know. I mean, but it's kind of like that thing without being mean. It's just they're sick of one thing, so they create something out of that. I don't know if I'm explaining it right. I remember
your point.
Something to that effect, that basically it was something that I think that tipped the point to where he wanted to create their own and prove a point with it, I think is what it is. If I'm saying I bet you it was over a year ago that I saw that. But I don't think it was on yours, Rocco. But I thought you guys did touch on something like that with him when I remember, because I remember watching him on your
Yeah,
thing.
it was early on. I don't remember what episode it was, but we did have him on.
You're going to get me on a mission. I'm going to try to find that now because I did a terrible job even trying to explain what I wanted to say. But
well, I mean, I understand your point of what it was saying. I just think that's a terrible reason to name something that.
Right.
It's like
everybody's got right.
Implies negativity.
Yeah.
And Revenge OS implies a negative OS. Like it doesn't make sense to me. It's just like of all the names of. I mean, people make some weird. Zorin, weird name, but it's fine. Who cares?
Yeah, but the name Pop.
Weird name, but who cares? Pop OS is dumb. That's just straight up. I mean, it wouldn't be dumb if it was just Pop OS, but
I know that we can agree on one name that you like. GNOME. You love GNOME.
No. I think what you meant to say was Tux Digital, and that's correct.
It was episode 16 that Jody James was on. So,
but anyway, it's unfortunate news. I mean, I wish the best to him for him.
Yeah, killing me.
But you know, as you were
These
saying,
things happen.
Well,
and another
hopefully,
thing,
hopefully Josiah takes over and continues it. So,
yeah, he's just got to get some technical help. I think he's good enough to do all the back end stuff, but like most of us, when it comes to Linux, you get too technical, and it's like, see you later.
right.
But something for you as well, Rocco. I noticed. I remembered when you did your Ferran OS review. You said how good it would have been if you could save the themes that you had created.
Yes.
Well, guess what he's done? He's rolled out a release that says you can now save your themes.
See? That's awesome.
He is very responsive with listening to good criticism from the community. I think he's done 4 or 5 different things in the distro based on things I've said in my videos.
Mm-hmm.
That kid's sharp. That kid is sharp, and he knows what he's doing.
That's awesome.
Emphasis on the word kid, because you do realize he is just a teenager.
Yeah, he's like 6. How old is he? 15 or 16?
15 or 16. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, he's pretty nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think it was you sort of semi-started a campaign to remove WPS, and he did.
I might have done that. that was one of the things in my video, because I'm like, this is bad, because I pulled up the first time I played it, I pulled it up and see the TOS and how there's things that are like you cannot attempt to reverse engineer it, and it's kind of crazy. And actually, it was after the next thing. In fact, I think he left a comment on my video that he changed it.
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong with WPS?
Well,
other than the silly copyright thing.
Well, it's just that it's a closed source system and it's just they changed a lot of their TOS quite silently, because I remember seeing it the first time I saw it. I didn't remember having to agree to any terms or anything in it, and then all of a sudden when I booted it up one time, it makes you agree to all the screen stuff, and there's things in there like you may not attempt to reverse engineer it, you may not. I mean, there's just a whole lot of weird things in it. Reading the TOS, it was just weird to me. I'm like, that's why, and I can understand. I mean, the advantage with it, of course, is it's the one that's closest to the current incarnation of Office, and so it might be more comfortable using that. I love the old style of Office. That's why I absolutely love LibreOffice, because it reminds me of the old style Office where I can actually customize my window to what I want, so I don't have to flip through ribbons to find what I'm looking for.
I understand. I think that it's a good point as far as removing it. I mean, it shouldn't be like the default option anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there's like if he wanted to, you could just add the ribbon style of LibreOffice in there, because maybe some people want that. I don't know. And if you don't want it, you can just go in and hit a checkbox and turn it off.
Yeah, and I think that might be a good option. Now, I understand putting it in, because somebody moving from a Windows environment using Office over, you want them to have software they're comfortable with. I get that. That's cool. I just I was a little leery with that TOS. It's crazy to read it.
I mean, by being the default option is kind of sketchy for sure. Yeah. But there was actually some issues where WPS Office was making claims about that it was discontinued for Linux on their Twitter, and then they said, then people, all the news places were talking about how that happened, and then someone from the WPS Office claimed that that's not true, and that all the media people were just making a fuss out of nothing, and that we were making up stuff, and then people were just making like, here's a screen cap of you said this. It's like, it's not us making it up. And
because they deleted it, didn't they?
They did delete it. But what was funny is that I had it in my video for This Week in Linux, so I had like an actual video screenshot of it showing. So I was like, here we can prove it right here. This is what you did. Like, this is just a screen cap of what you said. And then they started saying that the media were like out to get them or something, and that by we may have to take legal actions or something in their announcement or their release of that retraction kind of thing. So it's like, so one, you don't know what you're doing in your own company, and two, you're going to legally attack people because they're pointing out that you're doing stuff that you don't know what you're doing. I see how that works.
That's precisely not the type of software I like to use.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I agree. I mean, I wasn't defending WS earlier. I was just asking why you wanted it.
No, that's nice. I'm trying to see if it's available on Linux Mint now that we're talking about it. I don't see it. I can't even install it without. I mean, I'm sure I could go to the website and download it, but it's not in the repositories.
There was one thing that Farron decided to completely ignore me on, because I suggested he should stop using Mint as a base.
Yes, but he did also implement that where you can install the ISO or write the ISO to a USB and it'll boot without treating it, which was totally killing the adoption of Farron. I mean, so many people tried to download it and couldn't install it because they didn't take the time to treat it. So.
Oh, and even after treating it, it still wouldn't work for me.
What do you mean you have to treat it?
You had to treat it before you could actually
give it some ice cream, and
That's what I was thinking. Like, what exactly do you mean?
Ice cream, sprinkles, little nuts, some whipped cream. I
haven't actually tried Farron OS, so I don't know.
Yeah, I can't remember the terminology for it, but when you downloaded the ISO and burnt it, it just didn't work, and there was some sort of system sync thing that you had to run before to get it to work. I'll see if I can find what the terminology is, and then you'll know exactly what it is.
Possibly.
No, you will do. You're that type of guy. You seem to know an awful lot of things. So let's have a look.
I mean, that's just weird if you have to do something special just to get it to.
You don't anymore. He fixed that, but you used to have to do that.
Yeah, that's dumb.
That's good that he fixed it though. Because that is problematic.
There was so many people that downloaded it and didn't know what. They tried to burn it to a CD or a CD. I keep saying CD. They burned it to a USB, and it wouldn't boot. And you had to do this step before you could do that. And it wasn't like plain out in the open. And even if it was, most people wouldn't read it anyway. They would just try to download it and do it. So
I would have totally just given up on it.
Yes. And
not
that's
because
what
I
most
could
people
do it. I'm too lazy to figure it out. Like, I'm just gonna try distro. If it's not gonna work when I boot it, it's like it needs to work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I agree.
That actually happened the other day with me. I was gonna do 2 different distros on a Wednesday night live stream, and I couldn't get Fedora to boot.
That happens. You gotta put the feather in the Fedora first.
You have to use US. You have to use ISO hybrid in order. That's what you had to use.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay, I do know what that is.
Yeah.
In
order to get it. So.
Ye of little faith, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have faith in myself. I'm sorry. You had more faith in me than I did. But that is kind of unfortunate to do that. What's interesting is when we had discussion about the Hannah Montana Linux thing a couple weeks ago about how it wouldn't boot on the USB.
So how is it going with Hannah Montana Linux?
Oh, it's amazing. But the reason I brought it up is because Ryan and you couldn't get it on USB. It's because it was made before there was support for booting to USB. So like it didn't have the ability whatsoever. Right. So once I looked into that, it would burn successfully, but it didn't have the ability to actually like tell the USB to create the bootloader.
Right.
So it would just sit there as the code itself.
Yep.
I once installed it on my other computer. I might still have it installed. I have both the Christian and the Satanic version of Ubuntu installed.
What?
Awesome.
The heck is that?
There was a Christian Ubuntu that you could get, which was officially on DistroWatch. Then the Satanic one, which was essentially just themes for Ubuntu, really. But those guys made a big deal.
There was a Christian one that was recognized as a community distro, and I think it still might be. And then the Satanic distro was a joke making fun of the Christian distro.
I don't know if it was. I don't know if it was a joke. Because, I mean, it was the. I mean, I went over and looked at their whole website. It was just themes. They were actually making a big deal that they weren't on Distro Watch and they weren't recognized as a real theme because they're saying that. It's like, no, it's just themes. It's. I mean,
well, they don't care. That's the point. It's just like it's like here's this. That's why every single release is 666. It's 6.6.6 every single time.
Okay.
And like they sometimes will make like different like sub release things, and it's just a joke. Like the whole point is like why does there need to be a Christian distro? Well, now that there is, we're gonna make a satanic distro because it's funny.
Yeah. I mean, and really all that distro did is it just added a few, and added a few applications and for Bible study. That's all it did.
Right.
Which you can add by yourself.
Yeah, actually. I mean, in fact, if I recall correctly, they installed 2 applications and a series of wallpapers.
Yeah, that was kind of the point of the satanic distro. The satanic Ubuntu was making fun of that because it's like you didn't do anything, but you're making a distro. It's like just make an install package and be done with it. You don't need to have that.
Yep.
So version 666.10 was called Necrophiliac Necromancer.
Nice.
Yeah. But it looks like they stopped making it in 2013 or something.
Yeah.
It's shortly after the Christian guys stopped theirs, I think.
But the website is still there if you want to go and have a peruse.
Yeah, and actually their wallpapers and stuff were pretty cool. If you look at their wallpapers, they're pretty sweet looking. They did some good graphics.
Yeah, that's basically all they did was make cool wallpapers.
And some of them really don't even look evil and satanic, so you could even probably run them.
Well, most of the stuff that's based on like Satanist stuff is not satanic at all. It's just like a contradiction thing. They just use that term to be like edgy. They don't really mean it in that sense.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they were doing. But it's hard to get them to like do an interview. If you can imagine.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of interesting, ridiculous distros. I think Rebecca Black OS is the most annoyingly ridiculous distro.
Why? What's that one?
You ever heard of this? There was a song that was really popular like 3 or 4 years ago. There was a joke because it was so bad. It was called Friday, and the song was it's Friday, it's Friday.
It's probably so bad it didn't stay in my brain.
It was a meme on YouTube basically, and it was because they spent a lot of money, like thousands of dollars, to make this video, and the song is awful, like it's just atrocious, and they even do like a pop thing where they get a bunch of people, and she's like, and there's one part of the song where she says something like, my friend, like she's standing at the bus stop and then people drive up, and then she says something about which she starts trying to like decide which seat that she needs to take in the song. But then you look at the car and literally all of the seats are taken except one. It's a very easy decision. And it's just like pointing out how ridiculous it is. So it became a meme thing. So they made a Rebecca Black OS. And at first, it was just a meme distro to make a joke. And then they started actually doing useful stuff with it. And it became the first ever exclusively Wayland distro. And you could actually like test new things in Wayland. So they make updates like quite significantly, like every couple months or so when there's a new big Wayland release, you can test out the new stuff in Rebecca Black OS.
Well, according to Distro Watch, the last time it was updated was August 26th.
Exactly.
Yeah, when you said it, I decided to look it up.
Yeah. Well, it's not meant to be like used. It's meant to be like a test bed thing. It's just annoying that they make a popular joke and they're like, we're going to make it actually useful. And then like, now you made a joke useful. It's just wrong.
Wrong.
Yeah.
Anybody see the MX-17 release?
I did not. What, did they release it already?
No, there was something on their website. I don't know if they were dropping a leak or what, but there's talk on their website about MX17.
We got to get.
I think it's still in beta.
Yeah, we got to get Dolphin Oracle on Destination Linux again. Check out what's going on with it.
MX is a pretty good OS all around. I mean,
well, Ryan, he's not here, but he loves MX16. Now he likes Peppermint too, but he loves MX16. So
I can't handle the way Peppermint's icons look.
So change them.
It just bugs me out so bad I don't want to. I don't even want to look at it.
As much as I hate those modern types of icons, I actually stuck with them on my Peppermint computer. Actually, I've grown to like them a lot.
I install Peppermint, and like 10 minutes later, I take it off.
Well, it runs pretty good. I know that.
Yeah.
It's a hoppertitis.
Yeah. I hate the Linux Mint default icons. I think they're ugly as sin, so I just change them.
There's nothing wrong with them. They just look like they're from like 1990.
No, they look like they're all cut off. That's the problem.
The default,
they're just all
partial.
Yeah.
the default Mint icons are from like 2009.
Yeah, it might as well be 1990 in computer years.
Probably.
It's actually because they're based on the Faenza icons. And the Faenza icon pack was like one of the first really big, well-made icon packs.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And it was like super popular for a while, and then the guy stopped working on it. And then he came back and then made Faience, which was based on Faenza, but not exactly. It was like a reversion of it. And then he like spent maybe like a couple months on that and then abandoned it. What's funny is that the reason why he abandoned it is because he got a job at Canonical and he's making art stuff for them.
Nice. All right, so what icon set is everybody using right now?
I'm using Windows 10.
Where's the kick button?
I'll tell you that on the computer I'm talking to you guys on.
You guys heard about Spyware OS?
No.
No.
Microsoft put it out.
Oh yeah. Okay. Dig it. I'm on it. Anyway, what'd you say, Tom?
On the computer I'm talking to you guys on, I'm actually using the glass icon set. Just kind of like the nice transparency. They're pretty sweet looking. And I'm on KDE on that one. So they look pretty sweet. On my main Linux Mint computer, I'm using the GNOME icons. And of course, my Peppermint computer, I'm using the Peppermint icons.
The Peppermint 7, yep.
Yep. Actually, I'm on 6. I'm still on Peppermint 6.
Oh, are you? Okay, cool.
Or, wait, which is 7 just came out, right?
No, 8 just came out. Well, 8 came out back in July.
I'm on 7 then. Yep. Yep, I am on 7. Yep.
Peppermint 8. I haven't looked at it in forever.
Yeah, Peppermint 9 will be probably May, June next year after 18.10 comes out and we work out which way Ubuntu has gone. Has it dropped LXDE completely?
Yeah.
Because if we can still get that as a base, then that will be the preference.
If they're not going to run LXQt as a default on 17.10, they're definitely not going to do it on LTS.
On 18.04, no. It will probably be to 20.04 before they change.
Right.
So what's the plan then?
Like that. This is me just making an assumption, but that's because of like the track record of what typically what an Ubuntu does and what they suggest flavors do is like there's a guideline. You know, don't release something that you haven't tested. So like because 17.10 doesn't have LXQt as the default, they're only they have it as the like the optional version. Because it's not default, there's not going to be enough testers, and because there's not enough testers, it can't be an LTS. It can't be the first time it goes default can't be LTS. So they'll probably do it in 18.10 at the soonest.
So what are you going to do then, Zeb?
Well, it won't be my decision, but they'll probably stick with a Ubuntu base and then just come up with another another flavour. Although they are trying an experimental peppermint at the moment, and it really does depend on what PC NetSpec prefers working with, whether he wants to go with this new thing that he's coming up with, or whether he sticks with the tried and tested Lubuntu base and then just adds his own bits on top.
Right.
I think abandoning Lubuntu because of the LXQt it would be a mistake. They should definitely consider using it.
The problem is at the moment it looks so damn ugly, LXQt. It's awful. That's just a personal opinion, obviously, but of the guys on the Peppermint forum, none of them really like them.
You're kind of conflating stuff though, because LXDE is awful and ugly by default too. So you just change it and make it look good. That's what Peppermint does. They make something that's already like by default ugly, make it better. So like this would be the same argument. Like, why are you using LXDE by default? Because it's if that's the reason not to use LXQt.
It's lightweight and efficient, and yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's also not expected to be the default anyway. So like, because it's not there, not using LXQt would be a mistake, because it is a lot more efficient than it used to be, and LXDE is going to die regardless. Like there is no chance. There's no possibility. You'd have to completely switch everything, and LXQt will, by the time they replace LXDE, it will be probably as efficient and maybe even more so because of the modularity of it. But yeah, I think it'd be a mistake to try to like keep LXDE alive, or switch to something that's also antiquated, because everything, even XFCE, is going GTK3. So only LXD is the only one that's not, because it's being replaced completely.
Well, the easiest thing to say then is watch this space.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate cop-out, because it's not me putting it together. I just helped test it.
Right. You should just also tell them to definitely do it, though, because reasons.
The world.
Happy the world.
Hiya.
Hi.
Justin, you should download it and check it out, because it's pretty good, actually.
So as far as the question for icons, I have no idea.
What do you mean you have no idea?
Probably, I don't know. Breeze probably.
Get off here and go try a new distro. So.
All right, man.
Thanks for letting me on. I'll catch the next one.
All right, man. See you.
Yeah. See you later, Josh. Bye.
Bye.
Good night, guys. Yes.
In the garden, as I will.
Cut off in his prime, bless him.
Yep.
I am using Papyrus actually right now.
You're gonna laugh at what I'm using. It's called My Icon Theme.
Yeah.
That's I got it from I don't know if it was from the GNOME site or wherever I got it, but that's what they named it, My Icon Theme.
I'm using the whatever came with Mate, with a bunch of Mate. I'm lazy.
Oh, that's
GNOME?
no.
No.
They have a custom icon pack now.
Yeah.
And I don't mind it at all.
It's actually, but no.
No, they actually, yeah, they do. They have
Gnome's
their own
icons
custom.
are atrocious. They're the worst.
Which ones?
GNOME's default icons are.
They are.
Yeah,
They're
no, I
terrible.
like the ones with Mate. I don't find them offensive at all.
It starts with a P, but it's not Papyrus. It's something else. I forgot what it was, but it's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Because I remember like helping them like kind of pick which one they were going to do.
Tom, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I don't know what my icon pack is, but it's probably just Breeze, because
You could just go into the system settings and find out.
Yeah, but meh. So
That's like work.
Wow, that's like oh my gosh, that's a few clicks away.
whoa, there's less clicks now because I have the new system settings.
Yeah.
So anyway, the reason I was saying is because I'm actually a designer, so when I look at icons and I get any pack, every pack annoys me because they're all like uniformed in a certain style. And there's always something I install that doesn't have that style and doesn't have that icon.
Yep.
So it annoys me more when one or two things don't match than if they all just don't match.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So like I used to actually, like when I used Fainza back in the day, or when I used Numix, or when I used anything, I would make my own icons custom from their pack, and then like I just start giving myself more and more work. So this way I just like meh.
So Tom, this glass icons, is it a full icon set? I mean, do you notice any programs that it doesn't have an icon for? Or should I not even worry about downloading it?
I don't know of any. There's a few that seem to stick out a little bit different, but I don't know of anything that. That I'm just going to look through my application list real quick to see if there's anything that sticks out. No, I mean I think it's good. Now, mind you, I had to download it directly from DeviantArt because the link does not appear to be good in the KDE Manager, Icon Manager. You'll see it there, and you can see the link. But no, I mean, even the wine icon is totally awesome. There's a few of them. The few that seem a little odd to me, Chromium looks exactly like a Pokeball, which is interesting. In fact, I really didn't realize that. A friend of mine who's a teenager pointed it out. Skype looks like a phone headset. It looks a little odd. GIMP looks a little odd. In fact, I'm thinking there might be a different GIMP one. But other than that, everything else looks, is pretty consistent. Looks pretty good. So, I mean, I like it.
Nice. I'm about to download it and try it out. I mean, I like Papyrus as my main icon set, but I'm always up for trying a new icon set.
Well, believe it or not, the set that I mentioned that I have, I like them. It's very clean. They all look authentic to each program. Like Steam's got the nice round Steam button, and even for Zoom, it's got the round camera button. And I mean, it's just they're very clean.
Yes, but Joe, it's your icon set. It's not mine. It's your icon set. It's not mine. Never mind.
I know. I have no response.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. I do know. I believe I got it from the Gnome Look site. The GTK3 themes is where I think I got them from. And what I liked about them is the folders. I better watch the kick button here before I even say this. They kind of remind you a little bit of the Windows.
Wow. Did you go there?
That's why there's a Windows button on the keyboard I can't change right now. Anyway, but it's a yellow folder. It highlights just slightly and that's one of the things I liked about it, because it's clean, but everything else looks the way it's supposed to. Every single thing on here, the hard drive, everything is they're clean little. Even I like a wastebasket that looks like a wastebasket, not these ones that look like they're all cartoonish, and so it's a nice clean icon set. So
Interesting. I just linked to one that I found on Deviant while I was looking for the glass one, and I found this because it's got like sort of classy. This is very unique. It's looks like,
wow, that looks nice, dude.
Yeah, this is crazy.
Wow,
kind of reminds me of like snow globes.
I'll say. That's awesome. Well, if you're into like Windows icons,
that is cool.
Deimos, I guess that's what Deimos, I guess is what it's called. That's a pretty good icon set. If you're into window looking icons.
No, this set here, it's just the folders were yellow, and I kind of like the way they looked. I'm not a big fan of yellow. Matter of fact, there's one that I should look it up again to see it's in my list. It was kind of cool, but there were a couple things, you're mentioning about having just one or two of them that don't match up with something, and that was what this one was. But it was almost like a 3D type icon, and it was called Vamox, VAMOX, and they have different colors: green, blue, orange, and it looks like the folder's sitting sideways, like as if you see files sitting in there. And I mean, it's really 3D-ish. They're really kind of cool. But there were a couple of things I remember that popped up, and it just didn't look right. So one of the things I do remember about that particular set too was on the wireless, it was actually almost like it was more functional. You can actually see the signal, which that probably would drive most people nuts. It kind of drove me nuts watching the signal move up and down because it always makes you think you don't have a good signal. But,
well, Robot in the chat said that he uses i3 and he don't need no stinking icons. Too funny.
Well, and then there's one, if you get a chance to look them up, they're called ultra flat. Those actually are, if you like something that's really flat and clean, kind of like a KDE icon.
Well, look, the Breeze default icon set is a great icon set. I mean, no question about it.
It's way better than what Oxygen used to be. Oxygen
oh, yeah.
Atrocious.
Oh, my gosh.
And Breeze is actually decent. Like, that's probably why it doesn't bother me as much, because their icons are not bad. So it's just like, yeah, alrighty.
Yep.
Definitely not my fave, but they're not terrible either.
So what do you guys think of Chakra Linux? You try it?
It's a really cool idea, but it's also odd.
It used to be good.
Well, they're Arch fork. So like they're not Arch at all. Like they're not based on Arch. They just used to be. So the reason I like them is because they're like half rolling, semi-rolling structure, which is like what my preference would be of most distros. If a distro would be a rolling application stack and then a stable base, then that's by far the most interesting that I want, and that's what Chakra is. Unfortunately, there are certain aspects that can't roll, and therefore some applications that can't roll either. Like GNOME applications cannot roll.
Because of the base.
Right, because the base can't move, and because GNOME doesn't care about making packages for anything.
Right.
So,
again with the GNOME.
I'm not. No, this is a GNOME problem that has existed for the entire existence of GNOME.
It's a known GNOME problem?
They refuse to make packages for any distro for any application. It's always the distro's job to do it, and I that's really annoying to me. It's like, hey, what, you're using Ubuntu LTS? Great. You like Epiphany? Enjoy the only version you will ever be able to use. That's a terrible way to do it.
Yeah.
But thankfully, because Canonical is aware of that problem, they've already solved that problem for GNOME with snaps. If you didn't know, you can use snaps. They're making snap applications for every GNOME app that you can use on every snap-enabled version of Ubuntu. And also every Ubuntu flavor, too.
So what did you think of Chakra, Zeb?
I liked it when I discovered it about 4 or 5 years ago. But for me, as you know, if I install a distro, it's got to work with a minimal fuss. And something just broke in it, and it wasn't easy to use anymore. And I don't know whether that's because they fully came away from it. I think when I discovered it, it was like an Arch clone, and then they were just in the process of moving it. But since it's gone completely away, it just won't run smoothly anymore. Looks good. It seems to be well put together and runs quite fast, but for me, it's just not easy to use.
They're also heavily focused on Plasma and the KDE stack.
Yep.
So they have very little other non-KDE stuff. They have some, but they're mainly heavily focused on KDE.
So a bit like Chaos in that respect.
Yeah, very similar to Chaos. Yeah, and also based on Arch.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
actually, I think Chaos is also a fork too.
A couple people have suggested about Chakra, and I had it installed to do a video on it, and then I had some problem on my main drive, and I ended up paving over it before I could actually play around with it too much. But they just released another snapshot, so I was wondering if I should check it out.
It's definitely worth trying if you're interested in like the Arch base or like an Arch derivative, but it's not Arch, so it's like you can't really call it Arch because it's a full fork and it's not a derivative technically. So there are certain aspects of it that might not be fast enough for people who are Arch fans. But I think it's a solid choice for people who want a nice polish, extra polish on their plasma. Because they do a lot of decisions.
So you don't have
definitely worth it.
You don't have the AUR in it. It's from what I understand.
I don't think so, no. But it's possible that they could make it work, but I think they've diverged too much for it to work.
So that limits your software availability.
Yeah, they also don't try to make. They didn't literally fork Arch, so the package is structured. It doesn't have the same amount either. Like, they're not trying to be an Arch competitor. They're trying to do like using Arch as a foundation for what they wanted, sort of thing.
Right.
So they still use Arch packages in the sense of when they do snapshots and stuff, and when they make changes in certain cases. But they make their own packages a lot more than using Arch stuff.
Yeah, they've got their CCR thing or something. Community Combined Repository or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's the equivalent of the AUR, but it's their own stuff, so it works with Chakra, not Arch.
Yeah.
Steve.
There's trouble.
Oh, no, here we go. It's all going downhill from here.
Hopefully his mic doesn't work for 10, 15 minutes.
He can't hear us right now.
No.
Well, gentlemen, I'm calling it quits. Time to go to sleep.
Turn it into a pumpkin?
Turning into a pumpkin like I do every time as it gets close to midnight. So
Okay.
I'll talk to you guys later.
All right, Barb.
See you, Barb.
Bye-bye.
See you later.
Thanks, then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The look of deep concentration on his face.
Right?
Right when you said that.
He can definitely hear us now.
That wince, like, oh.
Yeah.
Morning.
There we
Steve,
go.
what's going on, man?
How are we all hanging? How's it going?
Awesome.
Lovely to see such a wonderful bunch of Linux bandits on the internet this time of the morning.
It's good to have you, man.
Lovely to see you all. Hope you're well. Much love from the UK. Zeb, how are you, buddy? Big hugs, man.
Yeah, it's all good.
I'm going to be unusually quiet and observant this morning. I've got
No,
two
you're
ears
not.
in my house. I am. I'm going to use what I've got two of and shut what I've got one of. Oh, yeah. Cheers.
Zeb's your brother from another mother. Somebody thought you guys sounded alike, and that's what he called him. He says, "Is that Iggs, Bob?" That was early.
Well, in Destination Linux, we got into Firefox. So shall we get into Firefox? Because I know Michael would love to talk about Firefox, wouldn't you?
I don't have any bias towards Firefox at all.
No, not at all.
That would be ridiculous.
I do. I mean,
Okay, so if you do, let's talk about this whole clicks engine Firefox thing.
So Chrome sucks.
Yeah, exactly. So it's their new pilot program that they're going to do for 1% of their users in Germany that they're going to collect data on. So why? I mean, that's all I want to know is why. Why are they going down this road? Why are they going down the Google road?
Well, it's not like you can't turn it off. Whereas Google, you can't turn it off.
You're right.
So, in the sense that it's similar in the sense of like they're collecting data, they're collecting usage data. They're not collecting, I think what they're testing is the rollout of turning it on by default, and to see what happens from that.
You mean the backlash, if there is any?
Probably. They haven't really said why they're doing it, but it's probably that. It's unlikely that they're going to just do it because they want to do it. Like, why would they pick 1% of one area, right? That's weird. That's weird. So by doing it this way, they're probably just testing to see what the response is. And who knows what they're going to do after this, but they shouldn't have been surprised if people are not liking this news. I personally don't think it's a big deal to have it on by default. I do think it's a big deal for having it on by default and not warning when you install Firefox that it's happening. Like if they don't have a warning, I don't know because I can't use it. I can't use this thing. If they do have a warning, then I think that's enough. Because if you're given the option to turn it off and you're told up front that this is happening, there's no obfuscation of the tracking.
You mean like Google Analytics for their add-ons?
No. I'm saying like if you go to a website and you don't want Google to know that you're at that website, you don't have a choice. They're tracking you because most websites have Google Analytics turned on. So you don't have a choice there. Whereas with Firefox, in this kind of situation, you could just turn off that option. Like if it says, hey, would you like to be involved in this thing? You're already automatically in. If you don't care, just close this window. If you don't want to be in this program, turn it off. If they give the option to turn it off, I think that's fine. As long as they upfront and tell you that it's happening.
But the biggest problem with this is them going away from the idea of why everybody, well, not the whole idea, but the big part of Firefox is the privacy aspect. Because if you're going to have privacy. Yes, but they're starting to make decisions like Google. So it's a philosophy change on a whole rather than exactly. They're starting to make business decisions, but the philosophy is changing away from privacy and more geared towards business and keeping people or adding people. And I think that's where the biggest problem is. Yeah, you can opt out of it, but the idea of them even putting it in is the problem.
I disagree. Let's say, for example, wouldn't you love to know how many people use Linux? Wouldn't you like to know that information?
I would love to know that information. Oh no, Tom's got the
I needed my hat for that one because now I'm still looking for articles and information on this, but probably as the most crazy privacy guy on this one right now. And I'm just gathering context. I haven't heard of this yet, and it's concerning me. And I would say that one is that Firefox has been moving in the way of Google for a while, which is why you can now create an account with them and sync your Firefox usage across all your different things. So they're having some cloud element to what they're doing. But I think it's a stupid idea. What's that? Oh yeah, they've had it for ages. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, it's a long time. Absolutely, I agree. But it wasn't there, when I first started on Firefox years and years and years ago, back to like version 2.
Right, because thinking back then was not even
when
possible.
they showed up. Yeah.
Back then it was called Netflix, right? Or not
yeah,
Netflix.
but
Netscape.
I mean,
it started in 2004.
Oh my God, Netflix, Netscape. But I can't talk to that.
No, I think though that I disagree with the whole premise. I think that they should that they should keep that core focus of privacy and people. I mean, how much of it are they doing this because they're trying to play catch up with Google and Chrome's overtaking Firefox or has overtaken Firefox, and so what do we need to do to catch up? I'm a little leery of it. I've been hunting out for other alternative browsers for a while now, and if they start doing something like this, it might push me over the edge to stop using Firefox.
But why do they feel the need to catch up to Google or to Chrome? Like what you just said. I mean, for what purpose other than to track what users are doing, to give them more information on where to tailor their
same reason Apple keeps duplicating Samsung and everything they do right now. They're just whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, so iPhones explode now? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. Well, hey, there were a few instances.
iPhones separate when you charge them. The iPhone 8.
But look, you can.
That?
What's that?
The iPhone 8 that they were having charging issues where the phones were delaminating and separating and blowing open.
No.
Yeah, that was about a week ago. I saw that.
So yeah, maybe they actually kind of are.
I told you. I mean, hey, I stay up on this stuff.
I mean that's impressive that they're covering their bases of copying that much.
Yeah, yeah, there you go.
But I think my point was about the Linux point about saying how many people use Linux. People would love to know that. The only way to know that if there's some kind of tracking information built into the system. Otherwise, it's impossible.
You're right. And I would love to know that information, but I don't want to get it by putting tracking tools in. If that's what I'm focused on. Like I use Chrome, okay? So obviously there's tracking in that already, okay? But if I was going to switch back to Firefox, the only reason right now that I would switch back to Firefox would be for the privacy reasons. And it seems like they're going in a different direction in that area. So once they start going in that direction, it's a slippery slope to continually add this stuff. Well, like you said, they're testing the waters.
That's a massive contradiction and hypocrisy, right?
For what?
The only reason I use go back to Firefox is because of privacy. Yet what I'm using is completely anti-privacy.
That's why I said the only reason that I would go back to Firefox would be for privacy, because there would be no reason to.
You've already obliterated your privacy. Why
Correct.
Does it matter which one is doing it? Because especially with Firefox, you know for a fact they're doing it in order to better their product, whereas Google, you know for a fact they're doing it to sell your information.
I don't know though that Firefox is doing it to better their product.
The way Firefox does everything is to improve their own stuff. They don't sell information. When they release new features, they release it as open source. Like, when is the last time Firefox released something that was proprietary?
But they're also a corporation that needs to survive, too.
Right, and they have deals where they've made billions of dollars in partnerships and stuff. So, like, it's not like you automatically assuming that they're going to sell your information when they've never had a track record of ever doing that, of ever doing anything really the user at all.
I'm not assuming that they're going to sell the information. I'm saying that it's there. They're making the same type of decisions as Google, where they never did before.
Because that is implying that's what they're doing is to take your information to sell it, like Google. But that's not what we don't have any evidence that they're doing that. But we have a track record of them definitely not doing that.
We also have a track record of them not collecting data.
Correct.
So yes, so what?
And now that is changing.
The whole point of my reference of saying that if Linux had a way to track the information of how many times it's being installed, if it was just like a machine ID that gives you an anonymous information, that is how many times a machine has installed Linux or a particular version of Linux, that would be incredibly useful. We wouldn't be going, well, does Linux have 1.2% support? Or does it have like 6.3%? We'd actually know. So Firefox wants to just know.
But
so
Michael,
let me ask.
Can I ask you a question? Does anybody really give a shiny one how many people use Linux? Really? Who cares?
Yes, metrics. Metrics are very important. Go to a company and say, well, how many people are using this that would make us convince us to make software for you? We don't know. Well, then we're not doing it.
But this information's on the web, isn't it? You've only got to go on.
It's obvious. It's the information about how many people use Linux is made up. It's arbitrarily invented. We don't actually have any idea. Even Ubuntu has no idea how many people use their system. Like all they know is how many people have downloaded it. But what if you download Ubuntu 20 times? All they know is it was 20 times downloaded.
Well, it's still statistically possible to get the understanding, considering the large number of people utilizing the internet.
An educated guess.
I mean the large number of people using the internet combined together with the Google Analytics data, you can still get a reasonable subset of the population.
You can't
based
have the
on
Google
simply
Analytics.
your analytics.
You can't have Google Analytics. Google has never released any of the information they have in Google Analytics except if you pay for it. Because if they release
if I log into any one of my analytics accounts right now and I look at the website, I can see the percentage of people
of your website.
Correct, of mine. But I'll tell you that the percentage of people, like, I manage analytics for about 2-3 dozen websites. It's consistent across the board. Windows, how many on iPhones, how many on Mac. It's fairly consistent. It's a reasonable thing that enough people could figure that out.
You can make an assumption. That's it. That's all you can
It
get.
is an assumption. I'm not disagreeing. It's an assumption.
But that's the point.
But it's an assumption based upon logical, real data, and that's the point.
But it's data that's only for you. Look at, for example, net market share. People mock net market share all the time for having this information. Like, well, they don't care. You just mentioned you have a couple dozen. They have 40,000, and their information is still worthless.
Yeah.
All they can say.
Not completely.
It is worthless.
Didn't one of them admit as well that they made mistakes when they said Linux was now 6.9%?
They said it was completely wrong.
We cocked it up.
They said it was completely wrong. It was about 3. Yeah. It was nowhere near that. So, like, they said that point was 3, but they also said that the way they collected the information was also wrong. So, like, they had to affect it and fix everything they did. So, like, the whole point is that they have a gigantic amount of data they can collect and check it, and still they don't know. That the whole point is that all you can do is just guess, and that's unfortunate. Where if you go to a company and say, we have absolutely no idea how many people could potentially use your software, but we think it's a couple million. All they hear is, don't know, we think. No, thank you. They like go to a gaming platform. There are there's tons of people on gaming, and then they go to the Steam usage thing, which is automatically flawed because they're not asking everybody who's playing their games what they're using and what hardware they're using. So it's saying that we have 0.6% of usage on Linux, which is not remotely true. But the way they have skewed the data has made people is like actually scaring some Linux developers, like gaming developers away from Linux, not Linux developers, but. Like, and some are just pointing out, like, we don't care what the usage is as long as we make money and we have metrics to get that money. But if the people who are making big games are seeing these numbers and these numbers are flawed automatically, and they're terrifying to them because they know if we spend all this time making a game for this platform and no one buys it, we just wasted thousands and thousands of dollars per person who worked on it. Like, it's just, and also the marketing that they did for it. There would be a ton of wasted money and wasted effort, and they don't want to do that. But if we could just say, hey, this is how many people use Linux, and we can mark it down and say how many people use distro, that amount of that one metric, even just using Linux, that one metric is so incredibly valuable that we have literally no way to do it. And that's unfortunate. And Mozilla is recognizing that they have literally no idea how many people use Firefox. No idea at all. Chrome knows. They have a metric. They can tell people you should use Chrome because Chrome has all this. We have this track record of this audience and target, and you can definitely make extensions for our stuff, and you're going to benefit from all these people using it. Blah blah blah. Whereas Firefox cannot say that because they have no idea.
Yeah, but it comes back to marketing too. I mean, these are two web platforms as far as for browsing. Let's talk about the OSs themselves. I mean, Windows and Mac are both marketed products. Linux really, the only way it's, if you want to call it marketing, it's not official marketing. It's basically the word being spread by its users.
Right, but it's in the sense of, like, it's harder for Linux to be a marketing thing because there's so many different versions of Linux. It's not like you can't just download Linux and use it. It's not an actual OS, so like it's super confusing in the way the community is approaching it, and that's kind of impossible to avoid though, because unless you pick a specific distro, like Peppermint OS, for example, unless you pick a specific distro to market and to advertise and to advocate for, it's very hard to just say Linux, because when someone says Linux, you gotta go, which version of Linux? And you're like, it depends on your hardware. What kind of hardware do you have? It depends on what kind of thing you want to do with it. All this.
But that's the thing. Most people who know of Linux either know the word Ubuntu, they know Mint, and now I do think they're starting to know Peppermint more because it's the lightweight distro that is really coming You know, you get like Steve did here. I mean, he's years ago, or not even years ago, really, even recently, Steve, wasn't it, when you were with your Peppermint as your primary driver for a while there? I mean, to me, that's the kind of education that people get in realizing how it works with their hardware. So if you've got a computer that's a little bit older and you want something that's going to not be clunky or whatever, that's the distro that's been becoming known for. I think there's, even out of all the distros out there, I still think there's a handful that like what I just gave for examples, that are more the names that people recognize. Ubuntu is always going to be first and foremost in everybody's mind because that's the one that everybody ever heard of. If I ask somebody to say, well, what about Linux? They'll say, oh, you mean Ubuntu? Well, yeah, it's, or, you know.
I just can't see the point of this conversation. I just don't get it. You have a cottage software company called SCS, and they have Euro Truck Simulator, they have American Truck Simulator. They have it available on Windows, Mac, and Linux. Now, people, this is a group of software developers in somebody's bedroom. That's what we're talking about, right? You have your Class A, huge corporate conglomerate game release publishing houses who release their A titles on Windows, on Mac, and that's it, they stop. Really? So you're telling me that a cottage industry company like SCS can do multi-platform very successfully on a shoestring budget, and yet all these grade A title companies need all this marketing data to justify a Linux port when chances are it's already on Mac anyway? I don't get it.
They're choosing not to. That's what it is. It's not because they can't. That costs so much.
Or are they being paid by Microsoft/Apple to keep it away from Linux? Because actually, Linux is getting a little bit dangerous here. There's a lot of people using it. Let's go to North Korea. The most popular operating system in North Korea is Red OS. And you get a free weekend with every copy at Kim Jong-un's missile testing facility. How cool
if
is
you
that?
don't use it, he'll send the soldiers around and shoot you.
How cool is that's getting a little bit dangerous, people. What
That's
Microsoft
that's
offering?
dangerous, Steve. That is.
But that's not by personal choice. Kim Jong, whatever his name is, will shoot you if you don't use Red OS. So,
sorry, you got to have a bit of lightness.
It is easy though to determine the operating system of the 10 people who have computers in North Korea. So.
Yeah.
Great shout, Tom. Great shout.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, if you already have it for Mac, it's not a big deal to port it to
I think
Windows.
I think all this data gathering is a load of rot, quite frankly. I think companies,
it is. That's what I think.
Anybody, even the most in-depth, high-powered developer user on Linux, if they think for a second they can achieve true anonymity on the internet, then they're just completely flawed.
I was going to say, so why get your knickers in a twist about it? You're never going to stop it.
Yeah,
and they're never going to stop doing it.
Couldn't agree more.
We shouldn't just give in to it. We should definitely care. If you give into if you give into your lack of liberty, then you don't deserve your liberty. You're throwing it away. So instead of just accepting something doing bad to you, you can at least say something about it. In the terms of like,
but Michael, do you really think such a thing as liberty, true liberty, exists in the world? Really?
There's a difference between accepting your inevitable destruction of your liberty than understanding that you can't have true liberty, but you can still.
Oh my God, Michael, you are so cool. Can you just repeat after me? It's inevitable, Mr. Anderson. Could you sound just like him? Oh my God, it's Mr. Smith. He sounded just like him then, didn't it? Mr. Anderson. Was it just
probably
me
actually could. I probably could.
Yeah,
but
it was pretty cool. Sorry, Michael, carry on.
No, that's fine. I didn't get the reference to Matrix until after you said Mr. Smith. I was like, oh, okay. But like, so the point about the Euro Truck Simulator is like, you know, they have a small team. They also have a game engine built for like supporting Linux. Like, they're not a small team who just made this huge game without a base engine that already supported Linux. So like these other big games don't use these engines most of the time.
So what does that tell you about these other big game developers then?
Well, they don't care. Like they want to do,
or is Linux so insignificant it's not worth it paying the devs to do it?
Well, they don't know if it is or not. That's the thing. They don't want to take the risk because they don't care enough. So, like, if you look, for example, there's that new game that came out that's like a crazy platformer game called Cuphead, and it only works on Windows right now and Xbox. And when they asked the developers, "Do you have intention to make it work on anything else?" And they said, "We were paid a ton of money by Microsoft to make an exclusive, lifetime exclusive for the Xbox, but that only applies to the Xbox. So yes, we're making a Mac Analytics version too. We just don't know when." But they have decided that they've made it clear that they are. So it doesn't seem like Microsoft is making. They probably want to make exclusive deals with PC developers, but it's very rare that they're actually going to get away with it because there's no.
I think that's the biggest evidence that they are.
That they are getting away with it.
Yeah. I think Tom nailed it.
They're
Well
not.
done, you, Tom. Nailed it.
They're not. When the developer says they're not, how is that evidence that they are?
What I'm saying is that Microsoft has paid a game company to reduce the availability on another system. Not necessarily permanently, but at least for now.
No, they didn't pay them for that at all. They paid them. Cuphead was being made before Microsoft jumped on. They paid for the exclusive rights for Xbox, so they didn't make a PS4 version. That's it. But they said that they were making a Windows version already, and this money would help them finish faster. It doesn't mean that they were going to also work on Linux at the same time, and all of a sudden Microsoft comes in and stops it. Not at all. As far as the metrics go, we don't have metrics to give these companies. We don't have any information to give them. And Firefox just wants to have the metrics. That's it.
I think it's better to not have it. It's better to not have the data if it comes down to that.
If you don't want them to have your metric, you turn it off. They give you the option to turn it off. Everybody who
I didn't want Microsoft the metrics, and I dumped their entire company.
Right, that's fine, but you can turn it off. Windows, you can't. In the sense of like when people were like mad at Canonical for making Unity having those Amazon things, they were like, "How dare you?" And people were like, "You could just turn it off. Is it that big a deal to turn it off?" And they were like, "Yes, because reasons." It's like it's literally like a checkbox. Just turn it off.
Yeah, but again, like I said, it's the idea that they're putting it in to begin with is my problem with it. Not that I could care less because I'm not using Firefox, okay? But I'm talking about the idea that a lot of people use Firefox for privacy reasons because it's not Google Chrome. And they're starting to make decisions that are acting like Google Chrome. Whether it's nothing ever starts out for evil reasons. Google didn't start out with evil reasons, okay? But now they turned into a huge company that's selling your data. So nothing starts out that way. And I think you said it, although you don't maybe agree with it. You said it earlier where, it's if you give in, you have to have some kind of pushback. Okay? And I'm not I'm not talking for me.
I'm not people should like it. I'm saying they should turn it off manually and stop and not trying to become some vengeful attack on Firefox and Mozilla because of this.
Yes, but Mozilla has to
turn it off.
Right now there is, yeah. Down the road, who knows?
But then down the road we can have that conversation. But if you don't go Firefox, who are you going to go with? Everyone else collects data.
You're right.
Over a decade of Mozilla's existence and over a decade of Firefox existence, when have they ever done anything against the community? They've made dumb decisions, and they've made decisions that people didn't like. When was it against the community?
I don't know. I have no idea.
There's not one. That's the point. There's not a single time where they've done it like something where it was like the community was like being abused or attacked by some kind of thing. They've changed the UI of something. People hated it. They changed the extension system. People hate that. Like, there are things they've done that people don't like, but they've never done anything specifically negative or, evil or whatever for the entire time they've been around. And I think we should give them the benefit of the doubt because they've proven that they should deserve it.
I think if they want to implement something like this, it's probably best to have the ability here to say, here is something we'd like to do. Would you like to opt in? And then they can install something, keeping it totally separate. I think that'd be a better way to implement it.
I don't know if they've changed how they're doing the add-on thing or not. I'm not sure. They might be doing the add-on way, but having it installed by default and then giving the option to remove it, like presented, like, we're doing this. Do you want to remove it? I think that's fine. Because if people
I think you should switch that around. It's not installed by default, and if you like it, then go ahead and click this button and we'll install it.
But if it's an add-on, that's installed by default, and you click that button to remove it, what's the difference from removing and installing? Like,
the fact it wasn't there to begin with.
But what
the
is
fact
it really
I couldn't accidentally walk over, I couldn't accidentally forget about it, or I'm having visions of my old Microsoft computers having to spend hours de-bloatwaring it, which I realize is not the same thing. But
you're the one person who knows about it, and you don't want it, so you can turn it off. Okay. There are probably tens of millions of people out there who won't even know it exists. Therefore, it's valid information that they're gathering. It's not being done for nefarious purposes. So what's the harm in it?
Because it's gone down the wrong path, I think.
If I told you that there are currently distros right now that are tracking installations via mechanisms inside of the system, would that bother you?
No, absolutely not. And I'll tell you why. Because any of you people or anybody on the planet who runs a Microsoft processed PC is already running Linux within that coprocessor. Every single Intel processor runs Minix Linux. Every single one. Whether you run Windows, whatever you run. And how do we know what that Minix Linux is doing? You don't. You've got no idea.
No, you're right. You don't have any idea.
You have no clue. So your average user doesn't even know what the any key is. And I've had this conversation a gazillion times on the YouTube, right? The average user. So if Firefox want to implement something, by default, they're going to say, hey, this is switched on. If you don't want it, you can turn it off. All of the companies on the planet, by default, will switch things on. And if you don't want it, you've got to turn it off. But 99% of the planet's users neither know nor care what this is. And you'll get the standard comment, oh my God, Firefox is now tracking me when I go on fake taxi. Really? Oh, I better turn it off.
Right.
Most people doesn't care. Nobody
It still
cares.
comes back to, if you really want true anonymity when you're using your computer, don't connect it to the internet.
Yeah, absolutely. Spot on.
That's the only way you're
Don't go
going
on
to
the
get it in
internet.
today's world. The browsers are irrelevant at this point because the minute you've gone online, any information you put out there, it doesn't matter where it is. Once it's out there, you're never getting it back anyway.
I agree.
It's what you do going forward, that matters. And I guess what it comes down to now is, out of all this conversation, is do you want to use what's the least invasive to your privacy for the time being?
Or more importantly, there's Firefox on that computer. What am I using here? Google Chrome. Why am I using Google Chrome? Because everything works. Out the box, it just works. Hello? It's not any better than Firefox. It just damn works. Firefox, great.
But going back to the privacy issue again, before I lose my train of thought, and I've lost it already, so forget it. I'll think of it again in a minute.
So good.
That's Alzheimer's for you.
For me, well,
early onset of dementia, I'm afraid.
For me, with the privacy
welcome to the club, Zeb.
Yeah, for me with the privacy stuff, the fewer companies that are collecting data, the better. And that's where I boil down to, because we don't realize how much data is being collected. And it's at the very point in time we have finally, in retrospect, realized the data is being collected that's used against us. It's the very time we want to look back and go, I wish that never happened. And that's why I take such a strong approach to data collection. That, yeah, there's going to be companies that collect our data. There's really not much that we can do about it. And yes, Linux, and wherever, and in whatever system. But it boils down to, I do not want so much of everything perpetually tracked that I have to consciously go in and turn it off everywhere. That's what I'm talking about, that we have to get to this point where we are out of the mindset that we have to send every bit of data to every company for improving the products, because it's not about improving the products in almost every instance of the case. Is that what Firefox is going to do? I don't know, but I don't want them to have the data to start with. That's my point.
Okay, and you've just reminded me what my question was to the general
That's
group.
what I was hoping for.
Yeah, you don't want them to have your data, okay? So what if they don't give you the option to turn it off, like Google Chrome don't? Yeah, what are you going to do to stop them?
Nothing.
Do you really think they will listen when, as per my previous example, you've got 3% of the population or 3% of the users who use Linux, give or take, and those guys 9 times out of 10 will care and they'll do something about it. You've then got 3 billion other users out there who don't give a damn. So no matter how many people complain, the general consensus will be, I don't care, so they'll keep doing it. You're never going to stop them.
I mean, that's true, but I agree that we should care, but I also agree that we should care on two sides. We should care that people are taking our data without our permission if they're using it, as a connection to who we are. If they're using it for their own purposes of metrics of who's using their stuff and how they're using it, and how many, as long as they don't like tracking like individualized identification stuff, and they're like, how many people are using it on Windows, how many people are using it on Linux, how many people are using what is the most commonly used amount of add-ons or extensions or whatever, stuff like that. That's just statistical information that would be beneficial as a business to make decisions upon. I think we should be open to companies who are wanting to do that and are upfront about what is being done, and they're using code that is open source and is like, here's what we're doing. You can see all that we're doing. You don't have to trust us. Here's what we're doing. And Firefox has always been that way. While I was going through I was listening to Zeb. Somehow he reminded me of the Pocket situation that Mozilla did with Firefox, where they embedded the Pocket service from it was a proprietary add-on that they embedded into the browser, and people were lost their minds. So what people were wanting was like, hey, just making an add-on so we can remove it. And they were like, yeah, we could, but you don't know what we're doing, and we can't tell you yet because this is a big thing we can't release yet. And then we find out what they did. They bought Pocket and open sourced it. So what they did seemed to be bad, wasn't bad. Like, that's why I think that while in most cases we should care about the privacy issue, even though it's kind of futile, we should still care.
Yeah,
but
and that's my point. Isn't there better things to care about? Because at the end of the day,
yeah, I couldn't agree more, Zeb. Well done,
you're
mate.
just one voice that is a whisper in the background.
Right, but if we tell people to actually care and people realize that they should care, maybe they
I'm sure, Mike, there's a lot, and myself too, a lot of us, we all care about our privacy, but the reality of it is the minute you make a conscious decision to start up this computer in your pocket, doesn't matter whether it's an Android or whatever it is, or Apple or whatever, sure. You have already consciously decided that I know that my privacy at whatever level is going to be taken, even if I don't like it. I mean, today's world, you don't opt into things too often. You always have to try to opt out, and it doesn't do a bit of good half the time anyway. Because the truth of the matter is, the robocallers, like with these as an example, you don't have to even give your phone number out. They're just going to keep going down with their little algorithms and cycling right down the road until they hit your number. You know, so there's no stopping this stuff. But the minute you get out into that big world of invisible signals, you're part of it, whether you want to or not. Like I said, unless we go back to the way it was back in the 30s and 40s and 50s when the computer, you know, or way before computers were invented and all this other digital world came about, you can't turn back the clocks. And I get it. I agree with you. You shouldn't stop caring, and you should try to do whatever measures you can to either slow it down or prevent it as much as possible. But you do it knowing that you're not going to be able to put a dent in it other than what you're going to do for yourself. That's it. You know what I mean?
I agree with your point. I just don't. I don't think it's a reason not to care. I think it's a reason to. I know what you're saying. Like, and I agree that there's really no way to get away with it 100%. And I don't think that anyone really could ever do that. Or, well, Stallman can. He could.
All right, let me stop you a second. I posted a video tonight because I happened to stumble across it, and it was basically about store returns. They had this focus group on how you can get returns done, and they gave each scenario they gave them seemed more and more impossible, but they were still able to do it. And when it got down to the toughest steps, when they returned something without a bag and without a receipt or whatever, or the packaging, then they were asked, well, can I have your name and email and phone number? And their job was to fuse them. Some places that would let you go without it, and other ones that wouldn't. I mean, even if you didn't have these electronic devices, just go into the store to buy something, they're collecting it because that's how it's set up nowadays.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's.
But the challenge. There's a challenge, though, in that if we just roll over and let it happen without taking a stand, then we get to the point where we just don't even think twice about it. And then you walk down the college campus and you give out your full social security number and your mother's maiden name for a cookie.
Well,
and that's a problem, and that has happened.
Everybody here, how many
I delete my cookie every day.
Right? Everybody use a credit card? You realize how much information is just in that little strip?
You realize how actually completely zero security is in those cards?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, everybody.
That's why I use a card with one such card maybe twice a month, if that.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. Like, I agree with both sides, which is kind of like a weird place for me to be. But I also think that there are some situations where there is an exception that we should be more receptive to certain companies who are doing it the right way, because there is a right way to do things like this, and that's what Mozilla does typically. And
I still think the right way is to have it an opt-in, not an opt-out.
Okay, so when people go to the websites that you manage for Google Analytics, do you offer an opt-in to it?
For mine, that's a different case. That's a different scenario.
No, it isn't. They're using your website. Really. And you didn't give them the option to be tracked or not?
No, people can, because if you block JavaScript, it'll block it. If you
a lot of people aren't
do something with that.
A lot of people aren't.
I'm aware of that, but it's still a different issue because we're talking about downloading a web browser to get on the internet versus going to a specific website. That's your difference.
Right. But except that you're not giving an option whatsoever, and Firefox is.
Right now.
Yeah. No, I think it's a different scenario. I
don't.
Right, everybody. Well, I've got to go off to work. Just before I go off to work, I'm going to fire up Tails and book myself that cheap family holiday to Iran. So much love to each and every one of you from the UK. Hey, there's some great deals in Iran. What's the matter with you? Much love to each and every one of you. Take care. Thanks for letting me join Big Daddy. Much love, Zeb. Major hugs. All the rest of you. Thanks for your time. Tom, take care, man. Take it easy.
You too.
See you all later, guys. Much love.
Cheers.
See ya.
His timing's actually really perfect.
It is, because it is 12:31, and that should be the end of the stream, because we said we're going to do 12:30. So everybody gets a last word. Joe?
Security now.
Oh my gosh, Zeb.
Sorry.
Just keep enjoying your Linux, whichever flavor it is.
Yeah, I agree.
Michael.
TuxDigital.com.
Oh my gosh, really? I'd ask Justin, but he don't have a mic. So, all right, what's your last word, dude?
Me? I don't know. I was gonna say that one you should do. Like, I like the distro thing. And also, here's another tip: tell people, specifically the developers who are making that distro, that you're using that distro. Just let them know, so they can have some metric, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, Justin said his last word is soulless.
Respectable.
All right. My last word, Rocket League.
That's a good last word.
Yeah.
Hyphenated for sure, though.
Uh-huh.
I think my last
Like
word is
Diamond one.
be intentional.
There you go.
Yeah, perfect.
Like and receptive.
Open-minded.
There you go. That too.
All right. Thanks for coming. Maybe next week we'll see everybody again.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. We'll see you guys later. Good conversation.
See you later.
That was good.
Bye-bye.
All right.